I've got a question. When did we all start peeing ourselves when we sneezed or coughed or laughed? I am not into it, but it's treated like a normal part of aging. I mean, have you been to the grocery store? The aisles for like adult diapers, the section's almost as large as the aisle for baby diapers. And when I looked up the opposite of urinary incontinence, guess what? There's not one. There's no such thing as urinary continence. It makes it almost feel inevitable. Or is it? Spoiler alert, no. I've got some tips now that can keep you from peeing yourself. Like everything else, I've learned what I'm about to talk about at Miraval, specifically from Lindy Rivers, who's their pelvic floor expert. And as it turns out, there's three kinds of urinary incontinence. There's stress incontinence, there's overflow incontinence, and there's urge incontinence. We'll go through all of them, but I want to start with urge incontinence, which is the one that I personally suffer from. And it's that feeling that when you've got to go, it hits you out of nowhere and you absolutely have to go. To the degree, if you get anywhere close to a toilet, you might already start going. There's actually a term for that. Lindy called it key in the door syndrome. When you get just close enough to a toilet that you think you're there and you start to leak urine. I mean, am I the only one? Oh God, this isn't going to get any comments. And then I'm going to think I'm the only one. Luckily, there's a solution to urge incontinence, and we're going to tackle that first. The big problem with urge incontinence, besides the fact you start to go when you put the key in the door or get anywhere near to a toilet, or God forbid, hear the sound of somebody else peeing, is the real problem is that it wakes you up in the middle of the night, sometimes 3 or 4 times. And if you're like me, if you get the urge to wake up about 4 or 5 o'clock, you're shot. You can't go back to sleep. You've had enough sleep that you're just awake now. And that can really interfere with you getting your 7 to 8 hours, which is so important for so many reasons. But luckily, the bladder is a very flexible, both figuratively and literal part of our body, probably more so than our minds, and it can be retrained. There is a technique called bladder retraining. Now, one caveat. What I'm getting ready to describe, I suggest you try to do it on a pretty regular week where you're going to be home most of the time. Because you don't want to try this when you're like flying to Europe. You don't want to try this technique when you really are not in complete control to your access to a toilet. So try it on the most boring week in the world coming up. But it actually, I think I'm doing it now. I will keep you apprised of my own progress or lack thereof. I think it sounds very doable to me that we can retrain our bladders and go back to not peeing as often and getting a better night's sleep. According to Lindy, we should only have to pee every 2 to 4 hours. 2 is the absolute minimum. And when you sit down to pee, the flow should last for a good solid 10 seconds. But for me at least, and I think for a lot of other people, that's just not happening. I'm peeing way more often than that and not always peeing for 10 full seconds. And that is why we have trained our bladders to kind of not do their job. We have trained our bladders to feel full and feel the urge to void when they're only about a third full. Now, a normal bladder shouldn't even feel the urge to go till it's about halfway full. And even then, it's an ignorable urge. You don't really have to go till you're more at like 3/4 of the way full. How do we get away from that? Largely because of the just in case pee. You know what the just in case pee is, right? You're getting ready to go to the grocery store, so you pee before you leave just in case. You're getting ready to take a shower, so you pee before you step in just in case. Anytime that you're afraid you're going to be away from a toilet, even for a few minutes, we pee. So we're voiding our bladder when it's not full. And the bladder, being the trainable organ that it is, now it's starting to signal us when we're only about a third full of urine. That's when we get the first urge. The question is, can we retrain it to begin to send us signals when it's fuller, closer to a half to 3/4 of the way full? If so, we're going less often through the day, and we're also going less often at night. There's 3 basic steps to bladder retraining. The first one is just to track yourself for 2 or 3 days and see how frequently you pee. Take time of the Take a note of the time that you pee. If you pee at 2 o'clock, you shouldn't pee again until 4, at least, maybe 5 or 6. If you feel the urge to pee before then, make note of it. Also, count how long you pee. Make sure it's a good solid pee that indicates your bladder was pretty full. If you sit down and you just pee a couple of dribbles, 3 or 4 seconds, your bladder really wasn't full. So your step number 1 is collect the data. Are you indeed peeing too often? Basically not letting your bladder do its job. Step number 2 is to try and fight the urge to go to the bathroom the minute you feel any desire to pee. So if it's been fewer than 2 hours, less than 2 hours, and you feel the urge to pee, you probably are not even halfway full at that point. Try to make it a little longer. Wait until the urge comes back to you. Distract yourself. And if it comes back in an hour, then fine. Go then. That's okay. But again, if you're peeing less than 10 seconds, you went too early. And step 3 is when you do finally get on that blessed toilet, when you've earned the right to sit on the toilet, completely relax and get it all out. Because another part of this is that we're not completely voiding when we do go. We leave about 10% in and we start to fill up again more quickly. So give yourself a lot of time. Don't push it out. Just kind of relax. Let it flow like nature intended. And then when it's all gone, just sit there a minute. Sing the theme to your favorite TV song. I've kind of gone on a kick lately of old 60s, 70s, and 80s theme song. I find it especially helpful to hum the theme song to the Wild Wild West. Do you remember that one? Really good. Anyway, let a minute or two pass, or you could say the alphabet if you're not into 70s nostalgia. Let some time pass and then try again. That way you will have completely voided. And that is the pattern. Keep doing that for a while, and you will eventually, according to Lindy and all the other experts, retrain your bladder to be able to hold more and signal you only when you're fuller than you have been in the past. Remember how I said there were 3 kinds of urinary incontinence? One of the other kind is overflow, where you leak or dribble without even realizing it. Now, usually overflow is connected to a medical problem, either prostate problems in men or for either gender, it could be nerve damage as a result of surgery, or for women, it could be damage in childbirth, especially if they've had episiotomies. So that is actually a medical problem, which might require more of a medical solution. So if you're dribbling without even knowing that you're dribbling, you're just finding it on your underwear later, go see your doctor. That's a medical situation that probably has a medical solution. Then in terms of stress incontinence, the people that pee when they laugh or sneeze or, they're exercising really hard. Okay, let's face it, we all do that sometimes. Even young people do that sometimes. So that in itself is kind of in a different category. But if you do it frequently, it's probably a result of a weak pelvic floor. And your pelvic floor is kind of a much larger muscle than you probably think it is. It's kind of diamond shaped. And the thing that we're always told to do, or at least women, are to do Kegels, which helps your pelvic floor. And it does to some degree. But according to Lindy, the tension that actually tightens your pelvic floor a little more is actually more like the movements you make when you think you're going to fart and you try to stop it. Okay, don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. If you made it to this point in the video, we're friends. It's time to talk frankly. We've all tried to suppress a fart. It's that move. That apparently actually strengthens your pelvic floor a little more. There's other things that straighten your pelvic floor. Some of the kind of like classic exercises that can make it stronger are the bridge, when you get on the floor and lift your pelvis, especially if you put weights on it. The chair pose, where you just pretend like you're in a chair and you're not. You put your back up against the wall and sit. Any kind of yoga balance poses, any of those will really strengthen your whole pelvic area and your pelvic floor. But counterintuitively enough, having a functional pelvic floor isn't just about making it stronger. You also need to be able to relax it when you're ready to relax it. And there's a lot of exercises for that too. A squat is really good, and also a child's pose in yoga. it will kind of stretch out and relax the pelvic floor. So if you are just, you can't even, if you dread a cold like you dread nothing else and you can't even go to a comedy anymore, you might want to really kind of look into the exercises that will both strengthen and relax your pelvic floor. But the bottom line for all this, I mean, there's some classic old information that's been there since the beginning of time. Don't drink a lot of water after dinner. Watch caffeine and alcohol. They make you want to pee more. And yeah, that's all true. That definitely helps. But the big thing, it seems to me, the new news on the horizon, and what I'm excited about is the idea to actually retrain my bladder and try to be able to go longer between pees. Because I honestly think if I'm not getting up in the middle of the night 2 or 3 times to pee, it will really improve my quality of sleep, which is so important, let's face it, for everything. We all know that. So that's my news for today. Um, here's here's the pelvic strength and flexibility, and here's to urinary continence. Remember where you heard that. I'm going to coin the term when it appears, in the lexicon in a few years. Remember where you heard it first. Urinary continence, baby. We're going to go grab it. So track your urine like you don't have enough else to do. This is Kim with Getting Bolder, and thank you for your patience with this odd topic. Talk to you next time.